They used to overlook your light. Now it burns their sleep. They mocked your silence. Now it haunts their every noise. You were soft. They called it weakness, until the world broke them. You healed alone. Now they beg for your medicine. They only saw the surface. God just showed them the depths. You disappeared. That's when they started searching for God. You were their safe place. Now they sleep in storms. They belittled your worth. Now your glow burns through their shadows. The one who doubted you now prays to be proven wrong. You were light in a room they insisted was bright enough. Now they know. Your silence was never emptiness, it was grace. They forgot your voice until the world stopped speaking to them. You became the mirror they shattered. Now they can't face themselves. They chose noise over your presence. Now silence screams you. You left gently. They now feel you violently. The ones who left you, they whisper your name to the sky. You were always the gift. They just opened it too late. They see now. What they lost cannot be replaced, only mourned. Your name no longer brings pride, only ache. You showed them heaven. They settled for fire. The one who broke you now speaks of healing. You carried them when they were empty. Now they drown in fullness. They see now. You weren't the wound. You were the remedy. You loved with prophecy. They loved with pause. They look at you now like you're the prayer they betrayed. You were the soul they couldn't recognize in their blindness. God whispered your name into their storm. They let you go. Now even time won't forgive them. You were home. They chose the wilderness. They see now. You weren't fragile, you were sacred. Your absence taught them what your presence never could. They touched your heart without holy hands. Now it punishes them. They laughed at your dreams. Now they walk through your visions. You were the one. They see it now in everyone else's face. They forgot you until their soul called your name in pain. They once saw you as ordinary. Now they call you myth. You offered eternity. They traded it for ego. The eyes that once judged now weep when they see you. You walked away. Their world crumbled where you stepped. Your love was prophecy. They were too asleep to notice. They see now. You were the blessing dressed like heartbreak. Their vision is clearer now, but your back is all they see. You once held space. Now space holds them hostage. If this touched your soul, don't scroll. Comment your favorite quote and subscribe for more. Your silence echoes where their pride used to shout. You warned them gently. Now life speaks with storms. They missed your tears. Now they drown in their own. You gave them mercy. They gave you memory. You were honest. That's what hurt them the most. The one who betrayed you now calls you sacred. They wanted you quiet. Now they crave your voice. You were the answer they rejected out of fear. Their new love studies your shape in their shadow. You were the mirror they broke to avoid themselves. They tried to bury you. Now they're haunted by your bloom. You left no hate, yet they feel punished. The one who lost you prays to be found. They faked love. You offered soul. They tried to forget you. Even God didn't allow it. You walked through fire for them. They still feel the smoke. They see now. Only fools let angels leave. You were the whisper. They chase screams. They see you shining now, and curse the day they close their eyes. You were never too much. They were simply unready. They replaced you quickly, but not deeply. Their favorite memories now were your face. They wanted ease. You offered truth. You cried quietly. Now they scream silently. They didn't recognize you when you were soft. Now you're untouchable. You carried them in spirit. They carried you in ego. They finally heard your love through someone else's silence. You glowed. They fled the light. Your love was art. They only wanted decoration. They still speak your name in places you left. You warned them in love. They ignored it in pride. You asked for loyalty. They played with options. They broke you. Now your wholeness mocks their ruin. You gave them heaven. They traded it for hollow. They see now. Your love wasn't a season, it was salvation. You whispered forever. They shouted now. They buried you in silence. You resurrected in purpose. You held their secrets. Now they beg for your silence. You were the promise they never believed in. They chased fantasy. You were the truth. You stayed through storms. They left in sunlight. They remember you differently because guilt edits memory. You prayed for them. They betrayed your prayer. They see now. You were the prophecy, not the test. You still visit their dreams, only now you don't stay. They sought thrill. You offered depth. They chose crowd. You were crown. Their hands ache where your fingers once healed. They see you now, and it's too late to be kind. Your love was divine. They treated it like decoration. They once saw flaws. Now they see divinity. They tried to forget. God kept replaying. Your eyes once begged. Now they blind. They called you dramatic. Now they write poems about you. You bled truth. They wore masks. They see now. Your silence was louder than their lies. They remember your voice only when life gets quiet. You were the deep end. They never learned to swim. They left you waiting. Now they wait for miracles. You stayed faithful. They stayed foolish. You asked for love. They gave you delay. They see now. You weren't asking for too much. You were showing them what was missing. They called you a phase. Now they live in your shadow. You were the soul they couldn't fit into their schedule. They lost you trying to look unbothered. You prayed over them. They played over you. They thought they had time. God closed the chapter. You were too real for their comfort. They now see you were never replaceable. Your glow reveals their guilt. They ran from the one who would have stayed. You were the light that exposed their cowardice. They miss your grace and now understand cost. You turned your back. The world turned on them. They see now. They were loved too deeply to deserve it. You once called them beloved. Now the wind won't even answer. They stare at the door you used to knock on. You were the silence after the storm. They chose the thunder. Their pride stole what their soul begged for. You waited in love. They hid in fear. They walked past you like a stranger. Now every stranger reminds them of you. They see now. Your goodbye was actually mercy. You offered soul. They wanted skin. You stood in truth. They ran from mirrors. They thought they broke you, but you were shedding. You gave them healing. They gave you harm. Your absence taught them theology. They miss you like lungs miss air. You brought them to God. They brought you to grief. They once denied you. Now they'd kneel for your presence. You poured peace. They drank chaos. They only learned your value through suffering. Your name still tastes like regret in their prayers. You saw eternity. They were chasing ego. They whispered your name like a curse. Now it's their only blessing. You were the altar. They chose applause. You softened them. Now the world keeps cutting. Their pride burned the bridge. Your silence kept it ash. They didn't choose you until you were no longer an option. If this touched your soul, don't scroll. Comment your favorite quote, and subscribe for more. Hay didn't see your worth until silence wrapped you in God's glow. Now their eyes ache for the light they once ignored. Once blind to your soul's gold, they now tremble at your name in their prayers. Your absence baptized them. Now they see heaven was trying to love them through you. You didn't lose them, they lost vision. Now the veil is lifting painfully. When you left, the mirror cracked. Now they see you inside every shard. You loved like prophecy. They treated it like routine. Now they burn for what they once buried. They called you dramatic. Now your silence roars through their bones. The version of you they mocked is now the ghost they beg God to return. You were too much light for their shadowed eyes. Now they squint, weeping for clarity. Their new piece? A mask. You haunt the quiet between their heartbeat and regret. You were never too intense. They were too numb to feel truth. Heaven pulled you back. That's when they noticed hell had entered their home. Their soul remembers you now, too late for comfort, just in time for collapse. God gave you to them like rain. They called you inconvenience. Now they wander deserts. They used to roll their eyes. Now they can't close them without seeing you. You were the answer. Their ego made it feel like noise. The joke is gone. Reverence remains. They laugh no more. Your worth was hidden in divine timing. They see it now under spiritual arrest. They wanted someone easier. Now they fast for your return. They see you in dreams, but can't touch you. Heaven's revenge is distance. Your love broke timelines. They now pray in the ruins of linear logic. You were never disposable, only disguised, now unveiled, and unforgettable. The one they thought they replaced you with? A hollow echo. Their soul now sings your name. Off key, off time, too late. You didn't change. Their heart just finally woke up. They mocked your faith. Now they kneel where you once wept. You were always divine. They had worldly vision. They begged for signs. You were the sign. Their peace was built on forgetting you. Now the roof is caving in. You walked away soft, but the silence you left? A cathedral of thunder. They prayed for peace. God gave them memory. Your absence is a sermon. They now attend weekly. They didn't believe in soul ties until yours snapped and strangled their ego. They study your photos now, like scripture they once scoffed at. You healed them. They healed none. Now, pained as you're speaking, the version of you they ignored has risen, glorified, untouchable. What they thought was ordinary was actually holy. Now they mourn it like a death. You were a divine interruption. They chose familiar chains. Their peace with your absence is performative. The ache is eternal. Their friends mocked your intensity. Now they envy your prophecy. They didn't know they were watching an angel walk away. You cried for them. Now they cry to you in their dreams. They can't delete your essence. It's encoded in their evolution. The moment they disrespected you, the heavens rewrote their fate. What they once called too deep now drowns them with longing. You were never an option. You were always the turning point. They see your photos and feel the spirit they denied. You touched their future. They touched your insecurity. You rose. They regret. They see you in everyone else now, and it's never enough. If this touched your soul, don't scroll. Comment your favorite quote, and subscribe for more. They now understand. Losing you wasn't punishment. It was prophecy unfolding. Your voice still echoes in rooms they pretend to enjoy. They knew your name, but not your weight. Now it's breaking them. You were the mirror. They only saw their shadow. They realize now you weren't asking for love. You were offering salvation. They never stopped loving you. They just started too late. You weren't too much. They were too hollow. They now chase what you freely gave. They used to smirk at your softness. Now they crave it like medicine. The light they feared in you now scorches them in memory. They dressed you in doubt. God redressed you in destiny. You gave them eternity. They chose distraction. Now they're haunted by time. What they buried grew into a garden of ache. Their silence screams now. It calls your name. They see your glow and flinch. It reminds them what they threw away. You were the test. They failed. They didn't notice you healing. Now they only see your wings. Your love aged like wine. They drank poison instead. Their arrogance blinded them. Your absence taught them reverence. You were never theirs, just on loan from heaven. The apology never came, but karma did. They reread old messages like scripture, hoping for resurrection. Their soul now kneels in places their pride once stood. The grief they feel? A delayed thank you. They heard your goodbye in slow motion, now looping in eternity. You made room for them. They made space for regret. They laughed at your tears. Now they drown in their own. They called your loyalty obsession. Now they obsess over your loyalty. You were the lesson their ego wasn't ready for. They remember everything, especially the parts they denied. You were love. They were noise. Now silence baptizes them. They finally realize losing you wasn't an ending. It was their beginning of despair. The divine marked you. They mocked what they couldn't understand. They asked for peace. But your name is stitched into their storms. You don't haunt them. Their conscience does, with your memory as its voice. They scroll past your photos quickly. The ache is unbearable. You forgave them. God didn't forget. They realize now your standards were sacred, not controlling. They tried to replace you with pleasure, but it sobs like punishment. You were grace with skin. They wanted glitter. They can't touch your name without trembling now. You were the door to destiny. They chose the hallway of delay. They called you difficult, but now beg for your divine complexity. What they ignored now visits them in every sacred dream. You didn't need to stay. God stayed with them as regret. They finally pray for the peace you used to carry effortlessly. They lost your hands. Now even gods feel cold. They now measure love by your absence. Their pride kept you away. Now humility keeps them awake. They see clearly now. You were the miracle they weren't ready to receive. They thought your love was replaceable. Now even God hides when they beg for you. You were never seeking attention. You were bleeding prophecy. They didn't lose you. They lost access to healing. They now fast from distractions, hoping your spirit visits again. You left silently. Their soul hasn't stopped screaming since. You were ridiculed in real time, worshipped in memory. They watched you leave like you'd return. But heaven doesn't do reruns. Your glow burned them. Now they beg for warmth in winter hearts. They replay moments when you still believed in them. Their heart remembers your name more than their mouth can admit. You were the echo of God. They chose static. They see you now through the lens of everything they've lost. They thought they had options. Now all doors whisper your name. You were never hard to love. They were unequipped to receive it. Your purity exposed their pretending. You outgrew their illusions. Now you live in their truth. The version of you they wanted is buried. The one they need is risen. Their timeline collapsed the moment they disrespected you.